Arizona, are you 100% sure of that call and when you made it, and why did you make it?
Absolutely. We made it after basically a half hour of debating, is it time yet? Because it's been clear for a while that the former vice president is in the lead in Arizona.
The Arizona call by Fox News changed political coverage on television. Fox News fired their political editor, part of the decision team, Chris Stirewalt, after it. He writes in his new book, Broken News, I got canned after very vocal and very online viewers, including the then president of the United States, became furious when our decision desk was the first to project that Joe Biden would win the former GOP stronghold of Arizona in 2020. In his first network TV interview, Chris Stirewalt, who we're proud to call the NewsNation politics editor, is with us now. Chris, it's good to see you. I know the Fox part of this is sort of the most salacious, but we get to the title of the book, Broken News, Why the Media Rage Machine Divides America and How to Fight Back. Break that question in two. Why the media rage machine divides America comes down to money, right?
Well, I mean, it comes down to money, but it also just comes down to human nature and laziness. The reality is the shortest distance between a news organization and profits is anger, fear, hatred, and that stuff, right? If you were looking for, how about this? Tabloid, the National Enquirer or whatever else, those are money-making enterprises. They know something, which is shoddy, cheap, salacious, tantalizing, and usually biased journalism is very attractive, and it's cheap too. Because unlike what we're trying to do here at NewsNation, where we're going to rely on serious journalists, people doing hard work, shoe leather reporting out in the field and doing that stuff, the kind of work that you've done around the United States and around the world, instead of that, you put a couple of chuckleheads in a studio somewhere and let them bark at each other. And as the saying goes in TV news, talk is cheap. So this book, I hope, I pray, Lord, hear our prayer, is a call for people to understand that we have special obligations as American journalists, and we have special obligations as American news consumers to try a little harder and want a little better.
You said shortest distance between news organizations and profits. Are we to say that there are, or think that there are certain organizations that you talk about in your book who are news organizations in name only?
Well, I have a lot of very mean things to say about a lot of news organizations in this book, and I know it's true. I know that, I'll put it this way. I assume everybody who buys this book will be a little bit disappointed because I will say something unkind, probably, about everybody's particular pet lamb will be led to the slaughter. And that's sort of my job, as you know, and you and I have been friends for a long time and colleagues for a long time. I consider my job to be the skunk at the garden party. I don't want to add to the chorus of this side and that side. I want to make sure that I'm thinking about things in a different way.
Well, that's what real journalists are, is the skunk at the garden party. You're not supposed to be like. That's sort of the whole idea. And somehow we all got away from thinking that we were the skunks to being members of the garden party and enjoying it. And that's when things didn't perhaps stay on the rails. How to fight back, not as journalists, but as Americans, can we?
Well, look, as journalists, we are Americans. There is no American journalism without Americanism. You and I have special obligations as journalists to the Constitution and to the million men and women who died for the sake of these liberties, right? We have to earn and deserve the privileges that we enjoy, the freedoms that we enjoy as journalists. And if the work that we're doing is not good for the country, if the work that we're doing does not help us to realize the objectives of the founding and the hopes of the people of this country, then it's wrong. But we have to also remember that this is mostly a demand side problem. People wouldn't be pumping out this bilge if it wasn't for the massive demand for that bilge. So we as citizens, so you and I have special obligations as journalists, but you and I as citizens have other obligations too, which is to be well informed in a way that we can be good participants and show love. Like, this is a book, I hope, ultimately about love. This is a book about loving your country and loving your fellow citizens enough that you can be informed in a way that you can understand political debate and division and all of this stuff into something constructive and not just go for the cheap and easy high.
I go down to the book, and one of the things that you point out that's pretty interesting, grim data points. 2/3 of America's 3,100 counties now do not have a daily newspaper. 7% of counties have not only no newspaper, but no alternative source of credible news coverage. More than half of those are in the South. I'm wondering what history tells us about the demand side, because you go back to the 1910s and 1920s when there are 10 newspapers in towns, but they were all partisan. It was all hackery journalism. And then somehow we went through this period of renaissance of journalism where it actually mattered to be independent and to be the skunk at the garden party.
And some of that renaissance was overrated, and some of the cult of personality, if you will, around journalism, Woodward and Bernstein and all of that stuff wasn't too healthy either. But what the parallel that I would pull here is with radio 100 years ago. In the course of fewer than 10 years, America went from basically having no households with radios in them to having more than 80% of households with radios in them. We just 12 years ago or so, 13 years ago, got these pocket computers, these supercomputers in our pockets. You were referring to them and talking about NASA. The computing power that we carry in our breast pocket is greater than what sent people to the moon. We are still learning how to use this. Our ability to learn to do this in 1935, 1930s, we got pretty close to the edge. We got pretty close to the limit of the American system and the concept of freedom and liberty and a constitutional order. We pushed it pretty hard. Radio is part of that. We've got to get good again. And as we would say in West Virginia, the best way to get good at something fast is to play for more than you can afford to lose. And Lordy day, we cannot afford to lose this one, so we better do better.
Yeah, that's not yet happened in my golf game, but that's a different problem. Donald Trump was a better producer than some professionals I have seen. I once watched him on a feed telling a crew how to set lights for an interview like he had worked as a director for decades. He may have run his presidency like a reality show, but no one could say this man did not understand the medium of television. Probably the first person who made that leap was John Kennedy. In a similar sort of crossing of the Rubicon. I got 30 seconds. Can we come back from a president who was that good at managing the medium?
Abraham Lincoln said more than 20 years before the Civil War that either we will endure forever as free men or we will die by suicide. We still have both options on the table. I think that we're going to do this. I think we're going to turn the corner. We're going to be better news consumers. And I'm pleased and privileged to be part of NewsNation because I think we're going to make it better.
Well, we are pleased and privileged to have people also watch us because that's what gives both you and I jobs. We thank the viewer
right.
and bring them along on the experiment as well. Broken news, why the media rage machine divides America and how to fight back. Dare I say the people watching us are fighting back themselves. So, Chris, thank you. Great piece of writing.
Thank you, Doctor. Talk to you soon.
We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.